That's Jeremy.
Hey, what's up, bro?
How are you?
Hey, good, man. Good. I thought I'd have some glasses to match yours, man. How cool your
Dude,
glasses always are.
this guy that was coming to our Mondays, he makes glasses. So he made
Oh,
me
really?
these. He
Oh,
made
man, that'd be
glasses for
cool.
like Aerosmith and John Mayer and different people. So he's like, "Hey, can I make you some glasses?" I'm like, "Sure." So he
Oh,
made
wow,
me these,
dude.
man. Yeah.
Well, those are
I'm
amazing.
not
These
this
I
cool,
just I
man.
just got these at Nordstrom's. That's all. I just found the cheapest ones at Nordstrom's because I lose glasses. Yeah.
Dude, that's funny. How do you feel going to the store again?
Oh, it's going well. You know what? Actually, it was amazing because it was my first date with my wife since quarantine. So
Wow.
we went out for our anniversary and then went to the mall that was open. It was a weird feeling, but not, trying on glasses, they had to like wipe down every pair of glasses before people tried them on. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Dude, it's
trip,
fun.
man.
Yeah. Everything's so different.
Yeah, no,
Have you
totally.
ever been to Fogo de Chao before, the Brazilian steakhouse?
Bro, that place, my picture's on the wall. They let them know, don't let this guy in.
Dude, we just went there. My wife's birthday was yesterday, so I took her there, and at every serving plate, so every time they go to a table, they have to change the serving plate and then change their gloves.
Oh, wow.
I'm just like, who created all of these rules? Like, how do we know this is stopping anything other than just inconveniencing people?
That's amazing. Yeah, the restaurant we went to, everyone had face
Yep.
shields, and it was just a trip. We were kind of sitting there, and it was comforting and uncomforting all at the same time. Like
Yeah.
we were like, "Oh, should we be here?" Like, but we just had to embrace it. Man. It was our anniversary, and so yeah, dude.
Yeah.
It's I love Fogo de Chao. I probably will wait on going there for a little bit, but maybe not. Who knows, man? That
It
steak
is
is pretty
nice.
good.
There's not a ton of people, so you get meat quicker, but there's no salad bar access no more. So they close it down.
Oh, well, they're probably
Yeah.
losing money with the no salad bar because they try to get you all filled up.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, man, thank
Amazing,
you so
man.
much for jumping on, man.
Yeah, of course.
We've done, I think, like maybe 35 lives since quarantine. We've had so many different and incredible leaders, man. From Chandler
Yeah,
Moore Banning was with us. Christine Kane was last week. So just different people from all types
yeah,
of walks and ministries. And you're so dear
yeah.
to my heart because you are probably one of the few that have played a significant part in my story from the
Yeah.
beginning. And so I'm just honored, man. I know you guys just got your building. How was it navigating getting the facility and then kind of going into COVID? Was that pretty wild? Or were you guys boy,
Totally.
thankfully get a place to meet at least and host all your lives and
Yeah, yeah. You know what? We actually didn't do a lot of live stuff in the building besides some of the recording.
yeah.
But yeah, we were in there for 2 weeks, 2 weeks as a church. I mean, we kind of did like a soft opening. So
Yeah.
we hadn't actually had our grand opening yet. So we're still gonna do that one day. But yeah, we had our two services in there. Actually, the second one, Dominic Russo was speaking at it,
Wow.
and I remember that week was kind of the week where things were starting to shift, and we were talking about that as we were there. There was one guy wearing a mask, in the whole church, and yeah,
And
I
everyone
mean,
thought he was crazy, probably.
yeah, everyone thought he was sick, and we were all like, "Hey, do you have COVID?" He's like, "No, I'm just actually this is what we're supposed to do." As we were learning from China, like they all wear masks when they're trying to stay well. So it's like the opposite. But yeah, so we, next day, I think early the Lord gave me like just this I don't know this just thing from him that he kind of prepared us for this moment. Like, if you know anything about our ministry or me, I would say we're not the most organized, but we are pioneers, and we're creative pioneers. And so I think God was just speaking to me the next morning when I woke up. Like, I was watching the news and stuff, and
Yeah.
we could have gotten depressed because we finally got a building, and now we have all this rent, and then we can't use it. The Lord woke me up the next morning and just said, "Hey, we were seeing all the companies firing all their employees, and then we seen Amazon hiring 1,000 new employees or 10,000 new employees." And the Lord just asked me, he said, "Which one do you want to be?"
Wow.
And I was listening to this guy on a podcast, and he was talking about, or Instagram live, and he was talking, as a pastor, he was talking about, either we go down below and we buckle the hatches and we wait out the storm. He said, but what if we don't know how long the storm is? What if we don't have enough to sustain us through the storm by doing that? He said, what if we're supposed to get above deck, open up the sails, and catch the wind of the storm? And it's going to take us somewhere we've never been. And I just had that feeling inside me, that God gave us our name, Fearless, for a reason. And that we were supposed to like pursue a new ground that we had never pursued. And so we got on the phone with our team, and we were just like, immediately, I was like, add up all the numbers of the people we affect online. And we looked at it, we're like, well, it's way more than we affect in person. And so we're turning this ship into a new direction. We're going to minister to people every day. And so we, as a staff, we committed to no days off for a little while. Like we took no days off for probably the first like almost month, no days off. And we just kind of like thought like the hospital, like when COVID hits the hospital, they're working 3 or 4 shifts. The fire department, they're working 3 or 4. So we kind of took that for a while and found a new rhythm in that. We just now started taking 1 day off a week as a staff. We're probably going to go into 2 days off a week, but just when people need you 24/7, we had to see as the church, it wasn't a vacation, but it was hey, this is like go time. This is why we exist as the church for now, for this moment. So, bro, it's been, I think I've found new ways to do ministry. This is a pulpit right now. We're talking to people right now. People are watching right now that need Jesus right now. They can't wait till Sunday. They can't wait till One Voice event. They can't wait till conference. We have an opportunity right here in my car, right there in your house, to like touch people's lives. So I think, it's just a shifting and a shaking for us of like, I don't think we saw that we could do church that way, as we were more doing online as, the secondary thing. But now we realize that like, oh, wow, this is actually where we have a bigger platform. And, in service is almost the live studio audience of what's going to be broadcasted online to the world. So anyways.
That's so good.
Yeah, bro.
I think one of the things I wanted to ask you, whenever I think of you, I think of the word risk. You've always been a risk taker. And I think looking back, even it's funny when I've brought some of my team to your services, they'll say, man, you preach like your mannerisms are kind of like Pastor Jeremy. And I says, well, there's 2 people that have influenced my preaching. And it's been obviously Lou's been a father in his prayer, but Jeremy Johnson, these are people that have influenced my style in a way, my communication. I remember you would, when you would communicate, you'd tell these Bible stories. Like I'd never heard anyone tell Bible stories before. You would take these small passages. I remember that I Am Legend. I mean, these sermons that I remember from when I was a teenager, and they would impact me because the risk you would take and the way you would communicate. And I don't know, how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
40 years old, bro.
So you're 40. How have you continued to risk from when you were in Galt, California, all the way to Los Angeles, California, all the way through Modesto's years?
Yeah.
I remember when Bonky prayed you all out. I was there at that service. How have you continued to live like a life of risk, now with a family, now with children, with the whole community in one of the most expensive cities in one of the most expensive cities in the country? How have you been able to do that?
Well, good and bad, man. I think with every gift, every gift can turn into an idol, right? So everything that God gives us can turn into something that we start finding identity in, or we start almost worshiping that thing. And for me, risk taking became that for me. And so about 2 years ago, I had came to a place in my life that if I wasn't taking a risk, I didn't feel alive. If it was safe, I didn't even want a part of it. And so there are some things that God calls us to that feel really safe and normal and are actually good things, but we can't reject everything that's just, I only wanted to live the life. I started getting addicted to the risk, addicted to the adrenaline rush. And I
Mm.
actually had something called adrenal fatigue that I ran into, where I started pushing myself beyond where God wanted to take me. I found out that burnout happens when you either get too far behind God or you get too far ahead of him.
Wow.
And for me, I got too far ahead of God. I was taking risk in things he didn't call me to take risk in. I was just taking risk for the sake of taking risk, you know. And I got burned out, and I ended up having to take 40 days off of everything. I had to take a sabbatical. I ended up in a hotel room where I was preaching, throwing up blood,
Mm.
and my body falling apart, you know, and my body couldn't handle the level of risk I was pushing myself to.
Wow.
If you almost meet a extreme athlete or whatever, I was an extreme athlete as a pastor. I was pushing myself, you know, if you said it wasn't possible, I was going to do it just because you said it wasn't. You
Yeah.
know, that's, you know, our church is in downtown LA because, you know, everything in my mind said, don't go to downtown LA. You know, the only place don't go. You know, I was like, okay, well, then that's where I should go. You know, you know, our church is named Fearless. You know, like if you dare me to jump off the bridge, I'm only going to jump because you dared me. You know, that was the mentality. And so in that 40 days, man, I had to learn that I had to find my rhythm with God, that God is a risk-taking God, but there is safety in that risk,
Wow.
and that there is comfort in that risk, and there is, you know, and so I think I'm still trying to find that balance all the time now, even outside of that. After that 40 days, after getting healing from that, I think I'm on a constant journey listening to the Holy Spirit in that. You know, I think that God has called us to a life of risk with Him, not a life of risk without Him. You know, I always say it like this: I don't want to be on a plane God didn't put me on. I don't want to be at an event God didn't call me to speak at, because the grace that He has for me is in His will. You know, here's Jesus. Hey, Lord, if it's your will. The reason why I was saying that is if it isn't, I don't want to go there, because I'm not going to make it through that. So I would just encourage you, you know, there's a group of people that worship safety, but then there's a group of us that have started worshiping risk.
Wow.
And to when we find ourselves there, we have to find that balance of like, oh no, I need to worship God. And whether He calls me to risk or what seems safe to me, I need to be there. So for me, I actually had to learn how to rest. I had to learn how to, like, you know, for me, dude, building a church in downtown LA is a risk, but it's not, I don't have a mega church. My youth group was bigger than my church right now in
Mm.
numbers, but the size of the church does not determine the size of the giant I'm fighting, you know.
Mm.
And so there's the risk is different. The reward looks different. You know, it's a long game. You know, so there's all these things that I've had to learn. And like, even with my body, I have to work out, I have to eat right, I have to sleep right. You know, I was staying up all night long because I put myself, I would always throw myself like, hey, we're going to do this. And then I would force myself to have to do it. You know, we're going to have a song a month, and I'm going to write a whole sermon about that song. And we're going to do, you know, we're going to do this and this and this. And then we would have to write the song the night before. It's going to end up on iTunes, you know, like, oh my, and we'd stay up all night, 4 nights in a row. And then when you have kids, you know, so anyways, I had to learn, like, oh man, like God, I was doing some things that God didn't call me to, because I was forgetting that God wasn't just like a dad sitting in the stands, loving that I was playing the game, cheering me on. He was actually carrying me on the field. He was,
Wow.
you know, He was going to be with me in every battle, and He was going to be the stone
Wow.
that killed the giant. He was going to, you know. And so now I've had to learn how to, when I can't hurry things up, to just slow down and to breathe, and to get a hobby, to just, you know, find, because I have ADD. I got to do things all the time.
Yeah.
You know, if we're sitting around, I'm like, what are we doing? We're wasting our life, you know. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I
Yeah.
don't have to try to take risks. for me, that's my default. I have to actually work on resting. So,
Wow.
and work on not being safe, but making calculated decisions. So bringing people in my life that are risk takers, but a little more mature than me.
Wow.
So, I've had to learn to, okay, people on our board, people in our life, people in our circles, I want risk takers in my life, because I don't want just safe people telling me how to live. I don't want them to try to, those that worship safety, I don't want them trying to tell me how to do what we're called. I want mature risk takers that can go,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, do that, but don't do 10 things at once. Let's wait on the Lord on this. Let's see what God does, And so, I would just encourage you, you're a young risk taker, get some old risk takers that aren't
That's great.
afraid, that aren't like, oh, it didn't work for me, or, get some people that will help you take calculated risk, especially when you have a family. I can't just, I'm not in this alone. I got, I got a whole crew with me.
Yeah.
I don't want my son one day to go, Dad, thanks for leading us into where God didn't call you just to do
Mm.
it, you know?
Wow.
So I
That's
don't know if that
powerful.
answers your question, bro, but
No, that's so
that's what's coming out.
That's so powerful. I think it even gives me so much clarity. I think I've struggled with the same thing of resting is difficult for me. Quarantine, my first 2 weeks, I went insane. And I did every project around the house you could think of. I repainted stuff. I moved pictures 1,000 times. My wife was like, enough with your projects. Like, stop. Like,
Mm,
and I mean, she didn't mind the aftermath, but I was always keeping busy. And I feel like for me, again, you've been such a hero, and to hear that
mm.
brings so much comfort. I'm gonna be 30 this year.
Come
We
on.
just had our third kid, so we finally got our boy. And it's definitely been a game changer. And I think now, with a ministry that has primarily done 99% of its work in schools, with every school in the country shut down, it has drastically shifted my life.
Wow.
But I think we're on the same way. We're just bowing our heads again, saying our mission hasn't changed, but our method has to.
Yeah.
So, man, I
Yeah,
wanted to.
especially with students, man, because Zoom and, they're just on Zoom for school, and, just the rethinking of all this. It's almost like God was forcing us to break our ways, our golden
Yeah,
cows of how we could reach people,
it's
to
true.
reach so many more.
We did an event today. There's an event called Gen Z for Jesus that we launched, and earlier we did a Zoom with all the leaders. We brought a bunch of like influencers on TikTok, and I think as of earlier, there was already 200,000 people that had chimed in, students, like because the TikTok influencers are heavily pushing it. But I mean, they did one little TikTok video in 30 minutes. 2,500 kids text in from across the country to join. One Voice's Gen Z event for prayer and fasting. And so I'm just kind of like,
Wow.
man, that would have took me 20 years. Like, it would have took me 20 years to do something like that. And I think definitely when I'm looking now at reaching people, it's changing. I wanted to ask you, how
Yeah.
is leadership changing now in your perspective? How are we to lead now, where we're not very interactive in the sense of in
Mm,
person as we may have used to be? I feel like I thrive on in-person leading. I feel
yeah.
like I've sucked at trying to lead through Zoom, and I'm still trying to figure
Yeah.
it out of how to. And my biggest thing is, how do I
Yeah.
keep culture when I'm not in front of somebody?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, obviously attention is different, online, like even with our services, when we first did our online service, I made myself watch because I have ADD, and I couldn't watch the whole service, and I'm the pastor. And so we started just thinking, how do people keep attention online and still get the same result? And so, we even our online services, we moved them to, at the most, 5-minute segments. A
Wow.
song, then a word, then a story, then something and getting raw and real, like in our home. Not doing it so perfect with everything is the perfect background. The story about how our son has struggled with ADD, and he hasn't learned how to read yet at 5, and so we made a whole thing about that, but then brought it back to the gospel.
It's
So
awesome.
we're just trying to reinvent. I think some things have been better, like especially in LA, right? LA is a different a different beast, because when we used to have church in Modesto, where we were from, everyone could get to the church. You're doing events 3 or 4 nights a week. It's easy in person. Well, when we went to LA, we had to lessen everything we did because traffic's an hour drive. Everyone works 2 jobs. How do we do this? So we even as a church have discovered, oh my gosh, we can do half of this online. So we have a Monday night discipleship thing we do, and Zoom breakouts that have it's revolutionized. Oh my gosh, so many more people can be involved because moms and dads can put their kids to sleep. And even though we don't have that same interaction as face-to-face preaching, I'm kind of learning, like, some people long for that. The church people long for that. They long for that sermon, that so we do some stuff like that where it's a full sermon, it's passionate. I'm almost yelling, how we preach. But we've learned, like, just this online communication sounds more like conversation.
Wow.
And it's a whole new, I think the unsaved, the unchurched, the dechurched, they're really being drawn to this new style of how I'm having to learn how to communicate, right? To us, it's not about preaching. When you went into a high school, it's not a 45-minute sermon. You got 5 minutes. You got to do if you don't have an illustration, you're screwed. And if you're not giving something away, you're not holding their attention. So you had to I mean, dude, you're a genius when it comes to that. Most pastors, some of the greatest pastors on earth, couldn't go do what you do, but you had to adapt to reach. It's fishing. It's so we're adapting to reaching people right where they're at. This conversation, whoever's watching, we either held their attention or we didn't. Someone might be watching the whole thing, but we better have nuggets of truth that will change their life in 4 seconds, in 5, because
Wow.
if we don't have that, they're not staying on. Or maybe through this they'll follow something else. So we've learned some things online have been better because we live in a city where it's hard to get to the church, and we serve a millennial group of people that watches more online than, for them, they can share this with family members, friends. It could go viral on their Facebook. So we've done Facebook Watch. I mean, we just try to tap into that. And we're like, dude, I'm not worried. Those that know Christ to the level that they need a sermon like we're talking about can go on YouTube and get it. And they already do. They know how to do that. They can eat up the word themselves. But this is like a season for the harvest. This is a season for the gospel. This is a season for simple things, simple life truths that word is given. And so I found it harder, and it depends on people's personalities too, man. Like my son, he's an introvert. He likes being in our house. We're out camping right now and he hates it. He wants to go home. He said, when are we going home? He wants to go in his house and not leave. He could be okay with that for the rest of his life. And then you got other people that their personality is like, dude, I gotta be outside, and they don't care. It's they're out, they've shopping every day.
Yeah.
They can't wait till church starts back again. I mean, some people are finding, hey, I like church this new way. I like interaction this new way. I'm being ministered to more this way. And I think as the church, we need to be okay with that. We need to be okay with, we've started another campus. We've started, and so anyways, I mean, I think we're all learning. Pastors, for the pastors that are just like, dude, I can't wait to get back, maybe we've missed what church was about. It's not just about a gathering.
Wow.
It's about a community, right? Like my family didn't stop being a family because we had to go FaceTime. Like, I can't wait to see them in person and hug them, but they're still my family.
That's
where
good.
I'm on FaceTime, and the message doesn't change. The conversation doesn't change. It's not the same as hugging them in person, but it's going to do. I'm not going to not do it because, oh, I can't wait for that. Like mom and dad, I'd love to call you, but I just can't. When we get back in person, we'll be family. No, we're family. And if
Wow.
anything, for us, the church, we've realized we need to minister to people a lot more than Sunday. They need something every day of the week. So yeah, I mean, it's been good and bad, man. I mean, even with my guys, I got 12. We started this, we had our first gathering of this thing called X18 that we do in person, and it was amazing. And then we had to go all online. But those conversations online in those breakout rooms have been different, but powerful in their own way, you know?
Wow.
So I don't know what we'll keep and what we'll get rid of, you know, because for me, it hasn't been a vacation. It's been a lot more work, you
Yeah.
know, in a good way, but it's been like all hands on deck. Like me and Christy are recording in our house. We're like, I mean, dude, we're doing like, I mean, the crazy thing is we do our meet our pastors, you know, like a coffee with our pastors. So we do that, and we're getting people from other countries that we're hanging out with in this room, and like we would have never done that in person, you know.
Wow.
And we're like, hey, if you want to join Fearless, like you can now. Like we're not confined to a city. That scripture that says we will be shaped nations actually fits now, because
Dang.
pastors, we don't have to, you know, it's like, oh, if you live in this city you can go to this church. If you, no, it's like, dude, just whatever thing fits that's ministering to you, this can be for you, no matter where you live, no matter, you know. So we have people serving from London. We have people, you know, and to
Crazy.
me, dude, I feel a global call. So I'm like, this is awesome, you know. Like right now, I'm doing this thing with you, and I'm at the beach. We're camping.
That's
I
awesome.
got to, you know, I didn't have to drive to your office and do a message to a few people. We're here online reaching the world, you know. So I think God's just doing
Wow.
something new, man. It's like when Jesus came and said this temple will be destroyed in 3 days, he was talking about himself, but also the temple, the way they did the temple was shifted. The human heart became the temple, and it was multiplied. Now God is using the internet. It's not his temple, but he's using this. And really, I think we're having to lean on Gen Z, because, dude, I'm 40. I'm still trying to figure this out. I mean, I know a lot more than most 40-year-olds my age, but Gen Z is the one who, dude, this is normal to them. They'd rather hear a sermon like this than any other way. This is ministering to them more now than sitting in one of our churches with me behind a pulpit giving three points with a sermon. They're not sitting through that, but they're clicking on this, and all of a
So
sudden God's
good.
reaching more people. He's like, hey, I don't care about your church service. I care about reaching people. And so,
So
anyways,
good. Yeah, I think in the last 3 months we've reached over 45,000 with lives collectively.
bro,
I mean, our we do a Monday morning service, and I think the last 3 weeks we've had 1,300 on Facebook alone. That's not including YouTube or
oh,
Instagram. I mean, we just do basic, and
amazing,
we
man.
literally just do an hour because that's all Instagram gives us. So we've shortened it. Well, before I'd go 2 hours. Now I'm doing an hour. It's like 30 minutes worth, and I gotta like cut all my stuff that's not needed out. But I
Yeah,
love that, and honestly, I love that. You know, when I think of Fearless, like I think of you guys. You guys went into an event in Santa Cruz, California, which I actually got to meet not too long ago with Nick Vujicic. I got to meet the founder of Spirit West Coast, and I told them the story. But
bro,
you went into it. It's like you went into an event with an event,
yeah,
and you transformed it. And I feel like you've done the same here. And so, man, I even love that your perspective of like, why would we go back? You know, everybody's
yeah,
waiting to get back into the buildings. I agree. I've been telling our crew, I don't think that we'll ever gather the same way in high schools again.
mm,
Because I mean, if there's this many restrictions on churches, I can imagine minors in schools and
wow,
administrations. And so we're like, how do we start virtual clubs? How do we start virtual Jesus clubs and really start reaching thousands of kids? And so
wow,
this test run, even with Gen Z for Jesus, we literally planned this a month and a half ago, and
wow,
we didn't know what would happen, and we've just seen it spiral. And I think it's because Gen Z has ownership of it. All of these young people are sharing this. You know, some of these TikTokers, they have 600 young people under them. And so they asked every single one of them to share, and it becomes something they own. And so
mm.
what would you say is like, I mean, for maybe a pastor or a leader who's going to watch this and they're so longing to kind of go back to the old model, how would you encourage them to utilize what they have now, or even kind of grow into what God's doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think whoever goes back to just the old model will miss what God's doing, you know. And you know, I would have hated to, you know, and now we kind of see what would have happened if I would have been there when Jesus showed up? You know, what would have happened in that moment? Would I have been the one hanging on to the old, or would I have been the one
Dang.
clinging the new? And the new is just as much God as the old. And God is making a shift, you know, and it doesn't mean that we won't still do gatherings. And, you know, because right now as a church, we've been doing, you know,
Yeah.
we could come back into the building, but only with 100 people with masks on, and we got to be 6 feet apart. I'm like, if we have to, let's do it. But it's really for the believers, because no new believer is going to come to that.
It's
I mean,
true.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? No, you
That's
went
so
to
true.
Fogo de Chao because you've been there before. You're like, I already know, I'm
Yeah.
coming back. I want it. Someone that getting people to come to church is already one of the hardest things to ever do. Getting
Especially in
people to go
LA.
be the church is better, you know, instead of bringing to church, especially in LA. And so, you know, I think we're only doing it for the saved, if
Dang.
to come back the same way right now, the way it is. So we just did something we're doing called a drive-in, and and I think people will come to that. But we're doing so many more things at it. We're giving away a free meal, groceries on your way out. It's just something new. It's something unique. It's a way to still gather. So we're getting those people that want the old mixed in with the people that want the new. So we're doing the drive-in right now. We'll do that for another month. Keep gathering. If the restrictions lift, we'll go back to a place of probably meeting. But I mean, I think we just got to we got to take this moment, and we got to say, God, what are you doing? And we got to be in it for the long game, right? The long game is, I'm not doing this for what happens overnight.
Good.
I'm not really doing this for my Instagram shot of, oh, look at, I got a crowd. We got to get back into this for why we started getting into this, fishing for souls. So when we put that in the equation, if getting back together right away with mask on and 10 feet apart, you know, if that's going to win souls, then do it. If not, remember why we're the church. We're here to feed, clothe, love on. You know, I always, you know, I heard someone say this, you know, religion seeks to be right, and politics seeks to be heard. And if you're a Christian, we need to seek to love and to serve. Religion
Wow.
seeks to be right. Politics seeks to be heard. So if we're trying to do those two things, we either got religion or politics. All we got to do as believers is seek to love and to serve. So when you ask that question, we can do that without a large gathering.
Yeah.
We can
It's
love
true.
and we can serve in many ways. We could give out groceries. We're washing cars. You know, I noticed I started just saying, what would I want? You know, my car's dirty. I can't get to a car wash. So we just opened a car wash in front of our building. I said, God, why'd you give us this building? We can't meet in it. We were loving when our church would give us extra groceries that they had, because it just was hard to go to the grocery store, and we had a little less money from some things. And
Wow.
so we opened a feeding center. We're getting 75 pallets of groceries delivered to. So we're just turning that building into something new, you know, a new place. I've even offered it out to pastors, like, hey, if you need a film, you can use our building. You know, like, God gave us this place. Let's turn it into a ministry hub. You know, you look at guys like Pastor, you know, my headphones died. You look at a guy like Pastor Matthew Barnett, and I love
Yeah.
this. I love what he's doing, because you don't see him sitting around going, oh man, when are we gonna get back to meeting? When are we gonna get back to, oh man, Jesus? You don't see him doing a fast to get back to meeting. He's just meeting the moment. He's out there with a mask
Yeah.
on, smiling. This is the greatest days of his life. He's like, we were born for this. That's how I feel. That's what I feel like where Jesus would be is, what are we waiting for? We're waiting for what? This is it. It's like
So
the
good.
disciples waiting for Jesus to do what they thought he was going to do. Hey, take over, kick the Romans out. And he's like, no, this is it. You guys are missing it. The hour is now. Feed these people, feed my sheep, multiply the bread. If the disciples would have realized what they were doing when they were doing it, they probably would have been like, oh my God, like, thank you for choosing me. They're literally writing the Bible in the storm, casting the nets to the other side. I mean, casting the demons out. They were just trying to move Jesus on to what they thought he was doing. And Jesus was like, do you not get it? You're in the story right now. Wake up. This is what I would say to pastors. Wake up. We're in it. We're doing it. This is it. This is our
So good.
pulpit.
This is what we learned everything for. This is what we went to Bible college for, or didn't go to Bible college for. This moment right now is what we are. Heaven is writing about this, what we're doing right now, what we're in, how we're seeing this right now. You know, right as soon as it happened, man, I just thought either we put up our sails and catch the wind, or we go below, and we don't know how long this storm is. What if this storm is not a storm? What if this storm is an ice age?
Wow.
What if things have shifted?
Wow.
We got to relearn how to do ministry. You know, just like you're starting this new platform. What if you never get to meet in a public high school ever again? Does One Voice shut down? Was One Voice built because of platforms like that? Or was it built was there a mission, and the mission led to a platform? So that same mission should lead to a new platform. It's not about the platform. It's about going back to the mission. I think it's forced pastors, including myself, to say, I've made the mission about the platform, and I got to go back to the mission. What was the mission? The mission wasn't to put up an Instagram post on Sunday how big of a crowd I had, how many people I baptized. The mission was souls. And so how do I reach souls? And I can't, you know, I love this moment because it's hard to boast about, you know, no one's taking a screenshot in the background of, I had 7,000 people online this weekend for 3-second views.
True.
You know, that's not the post. We're having to get back to, man, what is the heart of the gospel? What is the heart? We're not in comparison mode anymore. Wow, look at Brian's crowd, man. I just feel like I'm not doing anything. No. We're all just put on an equal playing field. No matter who you are, no matter how big of a budget, we all came to this place now to go, dude, how do I just reach souls? Back to why we started when we were 12 years old and God called us into the ministry. When we were 17 and God spoke to us. When I got that message to move to LA, why was it? Was it for this building? I didn't see any building. So why am I worried about a building now? Why is a building holding us back? Why? Because we can't meet together. We got to stop being the church. No, this is God's greatest hour. And so we actually, to be honest, dude, we actually hired 3 employees during this time. And I don't even think we had the money, but I just said, I'm going to be Amazon. I'm not shutting down. I'm not firing. I'm hiring. And so we hired more people because I knew that there was a tipping point. There was a shifting moment for us that right now we need to crank out more videos. We need to crank out more graphics. People need us more now. People are more open to the gospel right now than ever before in history. Yet we are waiting to get back to something that is a dead cow, man. It's a sacred cow. We're in the wilderness worshiping the sacred cow and calling it Jehovah. The meeting wasn't God. It never was. Wow. The big event, the screen, the LED screen. What meal do you have? That's not God. That's a method. That you know. And so, I think it's woken us up, bro. It's woken me up. I'm excited for this new season, and I feel like I was born for this. I feel like God prepared me my whole life for this moment, and I think if everybody would look inside, they would realize that same thing. God knew we were coming to this hour. He knew we would be pastors right now. He knew we would have a heart for people. He knew we'd be the age we are, the situation we are. And he goes, you know, Brian will be perfect for that. I don't need Daniel. I don't need David. I need Brian. I need Brian Barcelona. I need Jeremy Johnson. I need One Voice. I've put enough creativity and enough courage inside them for this moment.
Wow. So good. So true too. I think no one's taking pictures of their small camera crews in the back. And I was joking to my team. We all got together maybe a week ago, 6 feet apart, masks. And I told them, I'm like, man, y'all have felt you wanted to quit, man. I wanted to quit too. Like, this has been a crazy time. Like, I've had moments of like, just like what you said, do we just shut down now? And it's like, no. Like, when God called me at Ammo, he said every school would be reached in America. He didn't tell me how it would happen.
Yep.
And so I love that God didn't say it will happen because you will preach in gymnasiums. That's not what he said. that just was a byproduct. And that worked for 10 years, but I'm in a whole nother decade. And it's crazy because last conference we did was the biggest conference that we personally ever had. We had about maybe 1,500 that came out. And for us, that was huge. We're like, wow, this is crazy. And Kim Walker was there, Todd White, Lou. And there was this moment where they all came on the platform to congratulate me for my 10-year. And they gave me a little plaque thing. And I remember feeling like now's the moment. We're about to step into the next decade and everyone's going to get saved. And then whoom, COVID. And I said, wow, like, I love that because it's literally, it's everything I boast in is gone. I can't boast in the thousands of kids that are gathered, and I can't boast in all the churches that are going into schools. We're all, like you said, on the same playing ground. And I wanted to ask you one more question, and then you got to get back to your family. How long have you been doing ministry, first off? How long has it been?
17, man. I made a big shift in my life. 17 years old. I'm 40 now. So that's, how long is that? 22 years, I think. 23 years. Around 23 years. Yeah, pursuing God with all of myself.
What has kept
I
you?
grew up in the church, but what?
And what has kept you faithful 23 years is my last question for you. What would you say? Because I'm pretty sure you've had moments where you're like, I don't want to do this. I'm pretty sure as pastoring, there's been moments of hurt, pain, betrayal. I mean, there's so many things that I remember you posted, I think, when that one pastor had taken his life, you posted and said, hey, pastors have feelings too. I mean, what has kept you for these 2 decades going strong?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you what has, but I do want to let you know, if you haven't thought about quitting, you're not pursuing your call. If you haven't been afraid in the daylight and in the midnight, you haven't pursued your call, because it is not safe in the sense of in your mind or in your heart. It is only safe because he's covering you. It's like the disciples in the storm. It was only safe. That storm should have ripped them apart, but because he was with them, it didn't. And so, I would say this, Brian, when I was 17, my best friend committed suicide. And I was with him at a funeral of another friend that had died the day before. He committed suicide the next day. And at that funeral that I was at, I was asked to share about God. And I was so full of fear that I didn't. And then the next day, this guy takes his life. He was on the front row. I can see his face still in my brain. And the next day he takes his life. I missed my opportunity to share what I knew my whole life. My parents raised me to know God. I knew God, and I knew his love. I knew all about him. When I was 17, I didn't know him to the place where I felt like I could give him away. But because of that, a friend took his life because he had no hope. It wasn't my fault. I didn't take my shot. My whole school was there. I mean, I could have saved a lot more than him. That's what everyone dreams about, winning their school, winning their campus. And I remember driving over the railroad tracks where he took his life every day and bawling my eyes out at 17. And one day I heard a voice that said, come down the tracks. And it was God. And I walked down the tracks, and I didn't know, but his mom had set up a rosary cross. They were Catholic, where he took his life, and it said his name on it. And I just crumbled at that cross, knowing now that God led me right to the place where he died. He took his life. And I just cried there. I don't know how long. I mean, it was day, and then it turned to night, and I was there at night, and I just heard the voice of God as I was hunkered down at that cross say, Jeremy, I'm the God of second chances. And I said, God, what do you mean? And he said, you are feeling guilty. You're feeling ashamed. You're feeling all these things because you didn't take the shot I gave you. And I'm the God of second chances. I said, God, if you're handing out second chances, like, I need it, I want it. And so that day I didn't decide to be a pastor. I didn't decide to be a speaker. I didn't decide to be a pastor of Fearless LA. I just decided for the rest of my life, if you ever give me the opportunity with anyone, I will give them this same second chance you're giving me. And I just made that decision that day that the fear of running away was greater than the fear of running in. And so every day that I want to quit, I'll just hear that little voice again from the Holy Spirit say, is today a good day to walk away? And, you know, sometimes it happens. I mean, bro, I don't know if you know, but I've, you know, at times I've had fears of flying on airplanes. I've had several close calls of that. And, you know, the engine's not working and we're sitting on the tarmac and I'll hear that little voice, that fear go, get off this plane, you're going to die. And then I'll hear another little voice that goes, is today a good day to stop?
Wow.
And it's just like, nah, today is another good day to say yeah. I think that whole thing for me was I said yes to Jesus. I didn't say yes to being a pastor. I didn't know. He just says, here's what I have for you. And I said, God, it's not filled out. He said, just sign, just say yes, you know, follow me. And so, you know, I've wanted to quit a lot of times, man. But that little voice, whether it comes through my wife, whether it comes through the encouragement of a text, whether it comes through just the Holy Spirit himself or a Bible verse or a podcast, he'll use things to just say to me, Jeremy, you can stop at any moment. I'm proud of you. I love you. But I've come too far saying yes to say no
Wow.
now, you know? And, you know, dude, people are hurtful, man. You know, like if you ever try to love a hurting person, you're going to get hurt in the process.
It's true.
Because people that are hurt people, you know. Someone said it recently about all this stuff we're going through with racism. I was talking to one of my guys and he said, Pastor, you have to be okay with me telling you I hate you because you're white. And I was like, oh, that hurts, man. Like, why would you hate me? What, you know? And all of a sudden it hit me, like when my wife gave birth to our kids, she told me she hated me at least 32 times. But I didn't take it personal because she was in pain. And I just kept helping her breathe. I just kept quoting scripture over. I just kept smiling. I didn't get offended by her hurt and her pain, what she was speaking about in the moments of pain. I knew she didn't mean it. She was just in pain and she needed somebody to blame in that moment of pain. And so, you know, no one else could have done that with her, but I held her hand and helped her breathe through that. I think with people, you know, with what we're going through now with racism and all the hurt and all the pain, and even my Hispanic brothers and sisters, I can feel their pain, you know, I can feel, you know, I think with people that attack, I'm not saying, you know, this is an attack story, but people that have hurt me in ministry and have attacked me or, you know, one little thing, it's not about me. It's about that pain from when they were 5. And I remind them of something, I said something, I'm holding them to, and all of a sudden that pain is this wound. And I think as pastors, we have to begin to have places we go to pour out that hurt and that pain. My wife is one of those places, my mentors, you know, I mean, as a pastor, I'm saying, dude, if you obviously I've gone through depression, I've gone through anxiety, I've had anxiety attacks, I had an anxiety attack that turned into an anger attack, and I broke something in my house. I mean, like we're people, we're humans,
Yeah.
you know. But I think we have to have places we go with that. But I think, you know, I think that. I think it's that loving act of the Father that he would let me quit at any moment on doing ministry, because for him, I'm not a human doing, I'm a son, but I've come too far to turn around now. It's like, might as well just go forward, you know, might as well just keep loving people. And, you know, someone once told me this, Brian, is you just need to get tougher skin. You just need to get tougher skin. You just need to, because I really care about what people think, and I really want people to like me. And he said, you just need to get tougher skin. And I said, God, did Jesus have tougher skin? Like, because you see these moments where he's just like, you know, are you going to leave me too?
Dang.
You know? So I feel in that moment, I look at some of my leaders and I go, are you going to tell me you love me now? And then turn on me too? Leave me too? Are you going to? And so I see that Jesus didn't have tough skin.
So good.
Because if you get too tough of skin, you become one of those pastors that like, you like ministry, but you hate people,
That's
right?
good.
You like green rooms, but you hate like walking slow through the crowd because people hurt. They're hurtful. Hurting people hurt people, you know. But Jesus really put on me like, hey, I didn't have tough skin. I had a tough source. And I think that as pastors, the further we go in this, the more people that God calls us, the more hurting people God calls us to minister to. We don't need to get tough skin because then we can't relate. We can't feel. We can't have a real tear in our eye. We need to be able to feel pain too. We need to get a tougher source. And like when people are hurting me,
So
I
good.
have to press not into my wife, not into my mentor. I have to press into him. And when I experience his perfect love, I get the capacity to continue to love. Beyond that break, beyond that hurt, beyond that pain, I have that capacity to press through and say, okay, I got enough. It's like a hose, you know? The hose in itself has no life. It's just a container. If it's plugged into the right source, it can fuel dry places.
So
And
good.
so, I've just had to learn, okay, God, whenever I start feeling hurt, that he went through that for me. He was crucified by the ones he created. He would, so when I start getting into him as my source, I can make it through this. I can love people that are unlovable. I can love that Peter. And I think just thinking about it like your kids, right? So how many times of grace do I give my son Brave? He hurts me all the time. He doesn't he takes for granted all the time what I do for him. But I'm just gonna keep doing it. Why? Because I'm his dad. I see myself, he's a part of my responsibility, and his hurt is only his immaturity. And so I'm continuing to love him through that and give grace and give kindness and anyways.
Man, that is so good. I think you should write a book called Tough Skin. Man, for reals. I don't think I've ever heard that. I've been told the same thing, and for me sometimes I feel bad as a leader because I want people to run with me for a lifetime. And I sometimes I feel bad saying like, hey, like let's do this till we're old and gray. I think the desire of every human being is that people would like you'd have lifelong friendships.
Mm,
And I just feel like so many times we're told that that's wrong, or we're told, well, God may take you other places, and I'm kind of like, yeah, but what if He keeps us together? Like,
yeah.
what if our journey? What if like I don't know. So,
Mm,
Pastor Jeremy, thank you so much, man, for
yeah.
sharing your heart, and we're gonna
Yeah.
edit this and re-air it as well, and I
Yeah.
just really appreciate you and who you are and your
Yeah.
wife and your family. We love you, man, so much.
Yeah. I love you guys, man. And like I think with that said, bro, is that God will lead. God will put some people that will run with you for a lifetime, and some people are in your life for a moment, and you give them everything you got in the moment that and we don't own people. you know
Yeah.
we own an anointing and an authority, and we're empowering people with that. Just like my son, he's my son. One day he won't live with me, but he's always going to be my son, so it will always be connected. But in what capacity? I can't start making things, because when I do that, I get let down. And I don't want to not do that. I don't want to not believe for some people that will happen with, because there will be, how beautiful is it, Bethel Church, that has so much of that, right? So many people that could have left but stayed. But then what about the people that are supposed to leave and supposed to scatter so they can affect more? So I think it's that it's such a hard thing as a leader, because for me, man, you pour so much time into people. You want that to be poured into what the vein of
Yeah.
what you're doing. But I've just found,
Good.
Brian, when God takes someone out, he'll give you someone that was like, when you help mold someone from childhood up to maturity, and then someone else gets to reap the benefit of all that hard work. God will give you someone that's already finished in those same ways.
So
And
good.
and for everyone that leaves, God gives you two. I don't know if that's, I'm not saying that that's scriptural, but I just feel like that for me, that God will never take someone into another area to minister to more without replacing it, because this is his church. This is not my church. This is his ministry,
Good.
not my ministry. So
So
anyways, I
good.
love you, man.
Love you too,
Proud
man.
of you,
Thank you
bro.
so much.
If you're watching from my people, make sure you follow what this guy's doing, and One Voice, and you know, we love what they're doing. And if you're in a youth pastor, you need to get with Brian and learn how to minister to your school and your campus, because they are killing it in every way.
Thank you, Pastor Jeremy, so much. We love you guys. Give your
Love
love
you,
to your
bro.
family.
Okay, love you,
All
man.
right, man.
God
Take
bless
care.
you.